He sat across from me, his back slightly hunched, hands trembling with each breath. Not because of Parkinson's, not because of age, but something else quieter, more common, and almost never spoken out loud. "I don't know, doctor," he said. "I thought I was just releasing stress. But it turns out I've been destroying myself." His words hit me like a punch to the chest, not because they were shocking, but because I've heard them too many times before. I'm Dr. Kara. I've spent over 30 years in men's health, working closely with men over 60. And every year, I see hundreds of men just like him carrying unspoken questions buried deep in silence about something they do in private, masturbation. We've all heard the same story. It's natural, it's harmless, it's even healthy, but here's the truth no one ever told them. After 60, everything changes. The way you touch yourself. It might be affecting your heart, your nervous system, your emotions, and yes, even your sense of masculinity, in ways you never realized. And the most dangerous part, it's not that you're doing it wrong, it's that you don't even know you are. One quiet afternoon, Mr. Peter, 72 years old, walked into my office. He looked strong on the outside, but when he sat down, something in his eyes had changed. "I'm not the same anymore, doctor," he said softly. "Does this mean I'm no longer a man?" That question is not uncommon. In fact, it's the silent voice of millions of men stepping into the second half of life. They begin to notice at times slowing things down, no longer firm on command, no longer fast, no longer powerful like they were at 30, and they're afraid they've lost what once made them feel like a man. But here's the truth, you're not broken. You're transforming. After 60, blood flow naturally decreases. Testosterone levels settle. Nerve signals take a bit longer to respond. What once came effortlessly, now simply needs more patience, more gentleness. This isn't an ending, it's an invitation to a new chapter of connection. The world has always told men, be hard, be long-lasting, be in control, but no one ever said, you can still feel deep pleasure even without being perfect. I've met men who spent decades suffering in silence, believing something was wrong with them. But in most cases, nothing was wrong. They just didn't understand the new body they were living in. You don't need a perfect erection to feel intimacy. You don't need to perform like you did in your 20s to feel connected. And you absolutely don't need to be ashamed of the changes that come with age. What you do need is presence, the willingness to let go of pressure, and the courage to accept that you are different now, but still whole, because the truth is, you haven't lost anything. You just haven't yet learned how to feel it, in a new way. You're not just seeking pleasure, you're searching for yourself. One early Monday morning, Howard, 78 years old, a retired military man, came to see me. Not because of a sexual issue, but because he no longer felt anything. Not just in intimacy, but in life. At first, he thought it was just aging, but as we spoke more deeply, the truth became unmistakably clear. Howard had been masturbating almost every night. Not out of desire, but because he felt lonely, restless, anxious. He needed an escape from the growing emptiness inside, and there's nothing wrong with that. Until that act becomes a mindless coping mechanism repeated over and over, without real relief or healing. You see, many men over 60 still masturbate regularly, but what they don't realize is this. The purpose has changed. It's no longer about seeking pleasure. It becomes about seeking peace, control, even proof that they still exist. Biologically, after orgasm, your body releases dopamine, pleasure, oxytocin, connection, serotonin, emotional stability, and prolactin, relief. These hormones help regulate mood, sleep, and emotional well-being. So for those living alone, no longer sharing physical closeness with someone, masturbation, even when not strongly sexual, becomes a lifeline. A tether to what it feels like to still be human. But when done unconsciously just to kill time, lull yourself to sleep, or avoid facing the weight of loneliness, it can slowly numb your emotional life. The sensation remains, but the meaning fades. And that, right there, is what I see in thousands of men past 60. They keep the ritual, but lose the connection, the path forward. That's why I often tell my patients, if you're still touching your body, let it be an act of care, not just a mechanical habit. Bring in a bit of awareness. Notice your breath. Choose moments when you truly want to feel connected. Not just when you're bored, tired, or lonely. Treat it as a small ritual. Like a warm bath, a moment of meditation, or writing in a journal. What's surprising is this: with just a shift in mindset, the entire experience changes. You no longer feel addicted or hollow. You feel grounded. Present, whole. Your body doesn't grow old in one day, but your emotions, they can return in a single, conscious moment. Your body isn't broken, it's just been forgotten. Roy, 74, had just crossed a major turning point in his life. After more than a decade alone since his wife passed, he had started dating again. But instead of excitement, he came to my office with fear in his eyes. "I've met a wonderful woman, but my body won't respond," he said. "I think I'm broken." Men like Roy often walk into my office carrying a very private kind of pain. Not pain from disease, but pain from a belief. If I can't get hard like I used to, then it must be over. But the truth is, it's not dysfunction. It's disconnection. The forgotten truth. Just like muscles, the sexual nervous system needs regular activation to stay responsive, elastic, and alive. If you go too long without touching your body, tiny blood vessels begin to shrink, nerves slow down, sensitivity fades, and when the moment finally comes, you find your body no longer remembers how to respond. Not because you're weak, but because your body forgot the rhythm of feeling. The quiet shutdown syndrome, Roy had told himself. After she died, that part of life didn't matter anymore. So he let it go. No touch, no intimacy, no awakening. But what he didn't realize is that silence comes at a cost. No one ever taught us that. Sex in older age isn't always about having a partner. Sometimes it's simply about staying in touch with the feeling of being alive. Some of my patients have said, "I stopped masturbating. I figured, without someone else, what's the point?" That belief is quietly devastating, because you're not doing it for lust. You're doing it for circulation, for nerve health, for hormonal balance, and above all, for one simple truth. You still deserve to be touched, even if it's by your own hands. Even if it's just to remind yourself, you're still here. The gentle solution, I often tell older patients. You don't need to perform. You don't need to be 25 again. All you need is a few minutes, just a few days a week, to reawaken the part of you that's been asleep. It's not about sex, it's about revival. Roy followed through. No pressure, no rush. Just slow, mindful time with his own body, a little each day. 3 weeks later, he returned with a different light in his eyes. "I'm not ashamed anymore, doctor," he said. "I feel alive again." You don't have to wait until your body completely shuts down to start caring. Just don't forget it. Don't let the silence erase what still wants to live inside you. Even if it's just a flicker, a touch, a spark, still warm, you still watch, but your heart no longer feels. Ernest, 68, widowed and living alone in a small apartment, didn't come to see me about an illness. He came with a question that weighed heavily on both of us. "I still touch myself, but nothing truly touches me." At first, he thought it was just aging, but as we talked, something deeper came to light, something I've seen far too often in men over 60. Ernest had been watching porn every night. Not for excitement, but as a kind of sedative. A nightly escape from the ache of loneliness. And he didn't realize what it was quietly doing to him. The silent shift, the human brain is remarkably adaptable. But with age, its plasticity fades, and when exposed night after night to high-speed, hyper-stimulating, unrealistic sexual content, your brain rewires. Porn creates artificial dopamine explosions, chemical highs far beyond what real life offers. And over time, your brain learns to crave only that. The result, reality becomes boring. Fantasy fades. Touch, whether from yourself or someone real, loses its spark. It's not just entertainment, it's a neurological hijack. And most men don't even know it's happening. The numbing effect, many of my patients say the same thing. "I'm not addicted, I just watch for a few minutes to fall asleep." But then slowly, they realize, they no longer feel excitement during real intimacy. They stop feeling pleasure in their own touch. Worse, they begin avoiding closeness altogether, fearing disappointment. Ernest described it perfectly. It's like sitting in a room full of light. But with no windows, I can see everything. But I don't feel connected to anything. The path back, I'm not asking you to quit cold turkey. What I recommend is a return to yourself. Take a break from porn. A few weeks. Notice the restlessness, the emptiness, the urge. But instead of reaching for the screen, try reaching inward. Use imagination. Soft music, warm lighting, a gentle memory. Create a space that invites feeling without shock or overstimulation. Pay attention to your breath. The feel of your skin, the smallest sensations. Your body isn't asking for stimulation, it's asking for your presence. Ernest tried. He wasn't perfect, but he was consistent. And 3 weeks later, he came back with a gentle smile. I've started to feel again, just a little, like I'm waking up. The message: you haven't lost your ability to feel. You've just gone numb by images that were never real to begin with. And you can feel again when you choose to return to the real experience of being alive. Because what you're truly searching for isn't on the screen. It's already inside you, still waiting to be awakened. You're not doing something wrong. You're holding on to what makes you human. Walter, 75, was a quiet, thoughtful man. During a routine checkup, after we discussed his blood pressure and nutrition, he hesitated. Then finally spoke. Doctor, at my age, is it still okay to touch myself? I paused, not because I was surprised, but because I've seen that same look in the eyes of countless men before him. The quiet shame, the unspoken belief that touch, pleasure, intimacy only belong to the young. The silence that hurts. Walter hadn't masturbated in over 6 years. Not because he didn't want to, but because after his wife passed, he convinced himself. I'm no longer someone who should do that. In his heart, desire had been boxed in as something inappropriate for old age. Society had taught him that older men should step back, be silent, be strong, and never again reach for anything tender. But I told Walter, and I'm telling you now, masturbation is not retreat. It can be the highest form of self-respect. When self-touch becomes self-care, science is clear. Conscious self-touch improves pelvic blood flow. It supports prostate health by releasing stagnant fluid. It relieves anxiety, eases sleep troubles, and boosts emotional well-being. But more than anything, it keeps you connected to the part of you that doesn't age. The part that still needs to feel, to be close, to be seen as fully alive. Walter's return to himself. I guided Walter through starting again. Not as a task, but as a ritual of healing. No pressure, no goal. Just a few moments of allowing himself to feel again, without judgment. And only a few weeks later, he returned to my office. Different. I'm sleeping better. I laugh more. I no longer feel like I'm fading away. Walter wasn't chasing youth. He was returning to something deeper, to being human. A man with feelings, life, and dignity. Final message: you don't need a partner to honor your emotions. You don't need a perfect body to touch yourself with respect. You don't need anyone's permission to remain a man who still feels, still stirs, and still deserves. Because in the end, masturbation in older age isn't just a biological act. It's a conscious choice to stay connected. And when done with awareness, with kindness, with care, you're no longer just holding on to instinct, you're holding on to your dignity. If you've made it to the end of this journey, I want to thank you, not just for listening, but for having the courage to face something that so many men spend a lifetime avoiding. Together, we've uncovered 5 truths every man should know before turning 60. You've seen that erections are no longer the measure of manhood. You've learned that masturbation isn't just about the body. It's about memory, emotion, and inner connection. You now understand that silence and neglect can slowly shut down sexual function. But with just a little awareness, it can be revived. You've realized that porn isn't harmless. It can numb the real sensations you once treasured, and above all, you've heard what I wish every older man could understand. Masturbation is not shameful. Done with intention, it can be the last thread keeping you connected to what's real. To yourself. The painful truth is, far too many men live out the second half of their lives in silence, believing they've lost something they can never get back. But after 30 years working in this field, I can tell you with confidence, you haven't lost anything. You simply haven't learned how to meet the new version of yourself. Your body still wants to feel. Your mind still craves connection. Your heart still longs to be alive. And if anyone has ever made you believe that aging is the end, I'm here to tell you the opposite. It's just a new chapter. And you have every right to write it in your own way. If this message touched you, I invite you to leave a comment below. Tell me, which part resonated most deeply with you? Your story might give strength to someone else who needs it. And if you found this helpful, please share it. Somewhere out there, another man may be searching for exactly this. Let's keep walking this journey, for your health, for your aliveness, for you. Because you still have so much left to feel, so much to connect with, and so much life still waiting to be truly lived.